Okay, so first things first, what I'm going to do is I'm going to apologize to the basketball guys because this is my first time ever recording a post-game interview or a post-game recap while the game is still going on. There's essentially 7.5 minutes left. I was on the verge of recording this video at the end of the third with like 2 minutes left in the third quarter, but I decided to take my dog on a one last walk before she went to bed because this game put her to sleep. Old-fashioned ass whooping is what I call it. Just old-fashioned. They did what they had to do. This is an incredible win for them just to not go out on a sweep. You know, to get swept in the finals is so deflating. You work so hard throughout the postseason, and they beat some really good teams. They had an incredible run. I think a lot of us were rooting for them. Me as an analyst was picking against them because I know how good the Boston Celtics are and have been. But on the inside, analysts had removed. I was rooting for them. The underdog, Luka Doncic, Kyrie Irving, you know, the Derrick Jones Jr. season that he had on the minimum. I'm a big Jason Kidd fan. Don't ask me about the Tim Hardaway Jr. minutes in Game 3 or anything like that. But the only thing that I can think about as I began to prep for this video, knowing that I wasn't going to have too much to really break down or say, was how crazy or the difference, and I hate to do this to Maverick fans, you know, take your win. Just be happy that y'all keep fighting because the basketball fans around the world, we are so thankful for y'all. I did not want this to end in a sweep. I am not even prepared for this game, for this series to end in 5, to be honest with you. I'm just not at the point where I'm ready for the NBA season to stop. And then next thing you know, we're getting into the draft and then free agency. Like, it's just going by so fast. I just kind of want to sit here for a moment and dwell in the season that has been. But it just feels like it's just in a blur. So thank y'all, Mavericks, for extending it because nobody wanted the season to end this soon, this fast, and on this note. But the only thing that I can continue to think of is, what if we take this game and we reshuffle it and we insert it into Game 3? The excitement, the conversation, the everything around this series, the entire dynamic and landscape changes. If we could have got this performance or this type of statement game in Game 3, this is just, it opens up so much more of a world of possibilities. But, you know, when you hit that 3-0, when you go down 3-0, that's just like a death wish. You get what I'm saying? 3-1 used to be that way, but we've seen it across multiple sports now. We've seen it a few times, more than a handful of times. But that 3-0, when you go down 3-0, history just says that man, and it's understandable, right? You go down 3-0, that means you got to win that means you have to win every game the rest of the series. You have to win 4 before they can win 1. You have to win multiple times on their home floor. You have to just really turn around and be an entirely different team and hope that they are an entirely different team as well. And that's just so hard to do, and it's so exhausting. Boston came real close last year, but it's so hard to do. It's so even hard to grasp. Coming down back from 3-1 is hard to grasp and overcome, let alone 3-0. You know what I mean? But that's where my mind was going to, was what if we could have had this game in Game 3? You know what I mean? That would have gave the Mavericks so much of momentum to come out and tie the series up to 2-2. No telling how Boston responds to it. Now I feel like Boston has definitely been hit in the mouth. You know what I mean? They had the least amount of points at half than they have in the entire season. They probably had, that probably goes for every quarter. You know what I mean? This was just one of those games where they really got dominated on all fronts. And like I said, it's a game that I think would have changed the psyche and the confidence and the swagger of the Dallas Mavericks, because they had one of those games that you need. But in hindsight, you know, looking at the rest of the series, it may turn into one of those games where it's kind of like the Miami Heat series, where Miami got really hot in that one game and Tyler Hero played his butt off and had 25 and 14, and they just couldn't miss from 3, and everything just went right for them and everything went wrong for Boston, and then Boston ended up just winning the series in 5. This could still very well happen in this series, where Boston kind of came out sluggish, got outplayed, got spanked, got dogged in every aspect of the game, and kind of was like, oh, cool, we'll just win a championship at home. You know what I mean? Like, that's definitely probably the mindset that they're having and what they're going to tell themselves on the plane to return to Boston. We're just going to go win at home, and we're going to force them to have that same type of exact game where we struggle and they are lighting us up from all fronts. The few things that we will talk about quickly, because, again, this is going to be hard to make this a super long, crazy video going into details. But one thing that stood out for me early, it was something that stood out for me in the last game as well, where Dallas, they're taking advantage, and they did a very good job of taking advantage of the fact that there is no Kristaps Porzingis. And the points in the paint discrepancy is wild, and has been wild. Like I mentioned at the top of the video, they almost are, or at one point was outscoring Boston in totality with just their points in the paint. And I have the first half numbers in front of me. You go into the half up 26 points, 61 to 55. They're making more than half their shots at a 52% clip. They're not even shooting the 3-ball crazy at the half. 5 of 15, solid, 33%, cool. But it's just what they're doing on both sides, and it's what Boston had did to them the previous 3 games, I feel like, which is kind of control the game on every aspect and really dominate you on both sides. Not only were they making half of their shots, but they had the Boston Celtics shooting less than 30%. 29% from the field for and a half for the Boston Celtics with as many offensive weapons that they have is crazy. But you got Drew Holiday 1 of 6, Derek White 1 of 5, Jaylen Brown 3 of 10 with 3 first half fouls. Jason Tatum, he came out and gave you 15 first half points, 4 of 9, 1 of 3, 6 free throw attempts. You know what I mean? That's Jason Tatum type stuff, but you were able to limit literally everybody else. And then you had 36 points combined from your duo, with 25 of those points coming from Luka Doncic, who had an incredible opening quarter. I think he really set the tone. I love how him and the rest of the Mavericks really emphasized getting to that paint. 34 points in the paint at the half compared to Boston's 12. You outscored them. You had almost 3 times as many points in the paint as they did. And again, you did the same thing last game. They didn't really have an answer. They don't have an answer now. And then they took their philosophy that they have been running all playoffs long, and they really gapped this team up. They gapped this team up. You limit them to 5 of 19 from 3. You were able to defend without fouling. They got to the free throw line 9 times compared to your 16 times. You get what I'm saying? And then Boston, of course, as we know them to be, they fell into that trap of taking those sexy shots. And then, like we always mention, they're going to get those threes up. They emphasize getting the threes up. They emphasize getting shots up. They play a little fast. And sometimes when you're down by as much as they were, I understand playing fast. I understand playing with some pace. But I think when a team is going on a run, and there was a point where Dallas, I think in that second quarter, and like I said, I got notes for days. So, yeah, at a certain point in that first quarter, they went on a 12-0 run, right? Luka was doing his thing. Luka got the steal on Drew Holiday where he moved his feet. They scored 10-0 run. Then he went to a 12-0 run on a Kyrie layup. Really pushing the pace, and they were getting their shots up, getting stops, and getting out. I think at that point in time is when you have to dial it back a little bit. When you dial it back, you try to get back into what you do. And I think they did have some attempts of trying to do that. Boston is who I'm speaking about. But I also feel like they were kind of playing at a certain place where they were just one shot and out. And when you start getting to that one shot and out and you got the other team on fire, literally getting whatever they want in the paint, you're just digging yourself a bigger and bigger hole versus trying to get a good shot and beat them with the pass. And I just don't feel like they had those possessions. I feel like a lot of these possessions in that first quarter during that run and a lot of the first half was like somebody trying to make something happen, which you respect and you understand because sometimes that's needed. Sometimes a team is having a run and you're kind of stale as a team on the offensive side of the basketball, and you just need somebody to just hit a few shots just to get y'all going and keep y'all in there. I think Sam Hauser did a great job of that in the third game the night before, where it seemed like Dallas was kind of getting a flow going in that opening quarter. And I just remember Sam Hauser hitting 2 big threes to respond to what Dallas had did on the previous play on the offensive side. And again, those shots aren't shots that a lot of people probably remember in the totality of the game, but just to keep your team within it with some breathing room while everybody is trying to catch their rhythm and get into the flow of the game, you're able to withstand a run that could give you a deficit that you have to chase for the entire rest of the game, which is overwhelming, it's exhausting, and it just makes you feel like you can never get over that hump. And in this game, I felt like they didn't have that answer. I feel like Jaylen Brown tried. He was obviously struggling a lot. Missed some bunnies. I feel like Drew Holiday couldn't really buy a shot. Derek White had nothing going. You had some shots from Tatum that did fall. But then for me, it felt like Tatum was not getting the easy ones. You know, he started off with the first 5 points of the game. I think him, Brown, Luka, and Kyrie, they all scored maybe like the first 30 points of the game, which made me think we were going into an epic game because it was like Kyrie scored the first bucket. Then I think Tatum scored, and then Brown scored, and then Tatum scored again, and then Luka. And it's like you look up, and it's like, what, 12 to 11, 14 to 11, and Kyrie, Luka, Tatum, and Brown have all of the points in the game. So I'm like, oh, we about to have a duel. We about to have a duel and a game 4 potential elimination game. That's what I thought we were headed into. And then we just started to get that run, and the Mavs started to dominate the paint early. I kind of knew what it was when Lively got that corner 3 on the right side. When he made that 3, you was kind of like, oh, here we go. This is going to be interesting. The first 4 out of 5 field goals that the Mavericks made were in the paint. Kyrie and Luka, like I said, had the first 10 points. Brown and Tatum had the first 11. They kept scoring, and it got so fast that they may have had even the first more points, but that's just what I was keeping up with. 1 of 6 start from 3. Again, I know they love the threes. I know it's a numbers game from Joe Mazzulla. You want to get those shots up. I completely understand. But sometimes, especially when you're on the road with a game that has so much stakes, and you have this team on Dallas who is desperate. They're so desperate, Lively is taking threes. You have nothing to play for but to stay alive. I just think sometimes it's better to calm it down and maybe settle it down a little bit to execute something rather than playing hero ball so early in the first quarter. And then now you set yourself up to be down by so much that you're playing catch up. And it goes into a lot of bad basketball. And I feel like the Celtics were able to win the first 3 games by playing together, moving the basketball, keeping the Dallas Mavericks defense on tilt, constant rotation. And granted, they tried to do that a little bit. Definitely don't want to discredit the Mavericks because they did turn up the defensive tenacity a bit. You see Luka was a lot more dialed in, moving his feet. Not a lot of complaining and chirping with the refs, just a lot more dialed in. We know what he can do offensively. We've seen that so many times, but the statement to me was made on the defensive side of the basketball, the lack of going back and forth with the referees, and being completely, in the moment of the game and just going and going and going and going. Not much settling. You know what I mean? Luka's going to take his step back shots as he should. Those are the nail in the coffin ones when you're on a 12-0 run and Luka's able to hit a side step or a step back 3 in somebody's face and it goes into a 15-0 run. The crowd in the arena is going to explode. So I get it. And a couple of those times he was able to bait them into fouling him on jump shots. So do what you do there. But I just feel like on the other side of the basketball, you got to start to execute and maybe slow it down. You know what I mean? Just get one kind of wave off that run and give yourself a chance to keep in. My biggest thing is the bench. The bench for Dallas. Derek Lively. Derek Lively came out tonight, and I just want to make sure I'm as accurate as possible. He had 7 offensive rebounds. The Mavericks as a team, the Boston Celtics as a team had 4. Another guy that stood out to me a lot was Josh Green. He only has 3 points on the surface level, but I just loved the effort that he played with. He had a defensive play where he stripped the ball from Tatum because Tatum was doing a Euro. You know what I mean? Tatum, and I'm not mad at the Euro step, but I just feel like a lot of times in this game, Tatum was trying to be the guy to get them a bucket during those runs and during those stretches, but he kind of plays away from the context so much, and he started to fall into the where's my foul type of thing that we seen Luka Doncic, get criticized for. And then, once you start to get those role players coming in, playing confident, Dante Exum, he hit the big 3 that had put them up 18 before it was ruled back because he stepped out of bounds. And I was a person that was like, hey, why is Dante Exum even playing in the finals? The reason I asked that is because he had fell out of the rotation. Clearly, that's why Jason Kidd get paid millions to coach, and I don't, because he knows what he's doing. Exum had some moments. Maxi Kleber hit a 3 in this game. He had some moments. And once you're getting all of those plays in and those players from your bench, it's just going to be hard for the Boston Celtics to beat you. And I just love the fact that they were able to exploit that paint area all game long. That's pretty much it for me. Like I said, I stopped taking my notes because they didn't really give me anything to hold on to. 122-84 is the exact final that we have right here. I mean, that's 92, 102, 12. That's almost a 40-point win. Off the top of my head, I couldn't do that, man. That's almost a 40-point win. 84 points for the Boston Celtics in a finals game. You know what I mean? Like, think about what this would mean and what type of potential series we could have if this was game 3. Not to dampen the mood for Dallas Maverick fans, not to take anything away. That's just what I think about as a basketball fan who was hungry and thirsty for a series that had the utmost competitive basketball. And it still can. It still can. History and records are meant to be broken. You know what I mean? As long as they're continue to play like this, as long as they keep giving themselves a chance to stay alive and to compete, anything is possible. But it's just so tall of a mountain to climb. No Kristaps Porzingis again. Definitely wonder what we see him in the next game because he technically was available. And yeah, this is just one of those games where it just feels like when it rains, it pours. Everything kind of felt like it was going Dallas's way except the free throws. Again, 7 points on the free throw line. They better start getting that together because there will be a game in this series where they're probably going to need those free throws. We've already seen a couple of them, trust and believe. But I'm not going to get accustomed to seeing 84 points from the Boston Celtics in a game. Celebrated Dallas. Tough thing is you gotta move right on. The same way you moved on when you lost game 3 and was down 3-0, you kind of got to rewire and go right to game 4. You got the win in game 4. You kind of got to do the same thing. Go blank, rewire, and go right to game 5 because as much as it is to celebrate staying alive, y'all got the tallest mountain in sports history to climb. I will see y'all next time. Hopefully, I'm hoping we get a closer game like the first 3 games. I'm hoping they don't blow them out and Boston doesn't blow them on the home court to win the finals. But I appreciate y'all. I love y'all. I'll see y'all next time. I'm out. Peace.